You were saying about having local councils deciding youth services. Well, unfortunately, because I'm from Suffolk, and the head of the Suffolk County Council and the other man, another council who is in charge of children, who's got the portfolio for children, they actually told us, because we're trying to get cheaper public transport, and they actually told us that young people have got far too much money and have got plenty of money in their back pocket and they can pay for this, that and the other. I just wondering what your thoughts were and what you could say to those two councils who think we've got far too much money.
Have you publicised that and named and shamed?
We are going to be, we're having a meeting soon with transport providers, and we want to get that out.
Good.
Unacceptable.
Because that doesn't sound a very sensible thing to have said. And just remind that councillor that young people are 20% of the population, but 100% of the future. You are going to be paying council tax and paying their allowances. Because you won't be able to vote for them until you are 18, those of you who are under 18, you have no less a stake in your local community and the decisions that will be made now which will affect you in the years to come in that community. So to say something pretty stupid like young people have got too much money in their pocket sounds as though they need a good dose of common sense from the UKYP, and if that doesn't work then come and have a chat with me afterwards. Very keen last person there in the white top.
As you know, obesity in the young is on an all-time high. Do you think that teaching healthy living in a different way and by an outside company would help and teaching it younger?
Yeah, I think what I call the healthy living agenda is, I think, really important. It's something that you can't just do in a classroom. I think we do lots of good things in schools about how children and young people can live healthier lives. It's about healthy eating, it's about doing more sport, it's about keeping safe, etc., etc. Some of the best projects I've seen involve organisations from outside coming into schools or coming into youth clubs, where you've got people who are specialists in teaching kids about healthy eating or whatever, and could do it in a way that infuses those young people, so it's not just seen as another lesson, and we don't really take notice of it. But there's two sides to this. It's about healthy eating, but it's also about healthy living and exercise too. And we have got a huge opportunity with the Olympics now to use that legacy to infuse more people to take up sport and carry on sport as a natural part of your lives. And at the moment, the problem we've got is, despite quite a lot of money in the past going into school sport, we weren't getting the bang for our buck, and too many young people, when they go through secondary school, their sporting activity tails off, and then when they leave school or college, then they just drop out of sport altogether. We need sport to become a normal part of everyday life. And if you get people early enough, if you get primary school kids involved in sport, particularly competitive sport, the teamwork, the socialising skills it brings with you, it's not just for physical activity, then all the studies show you're much more likely to make that part of their everyday lives. And anybody who's got a good way of inspiring young people, then I think schools should go and speak to those people and make sure that the pupils get the best benefits from them. You go right over there. Yes, you. There's nobody behind you.
As of the next academic year, resits are going to be scrapped for all exam boards. Considering the fact that lots of researchers who are in the educational field feel that children learn better when things are taught to them in chunks, and also considering the fact that it might actually dissuade people from taking these qualifications if they feel it would be too hard, what do you think about scrapping resits?
Oh, blimey, we're getting into complicated education questions now. I just think we... I've got three... I wouldn't like to be back at school doing exams now. And I have a recurring nightmare, I have to say, that I'm back at university, it's the week before finals. And in my day, we had resits, so we didn't have modules, things like that. It was end of year exams. It's the week before exams, I haven't done any work, and it's not looking too good. I've got 3 teenage kids. One's just done A-levels, one's just done GCSE. So it's been a very stressful time in the Loughton household over the last couple of months. So I know how much hard work young people are expected to do in schools to succeed. But we've also got to make sure that we've got an examination system that reflects the amount of work that young people do, and that is properly respected by universities and by employers. And the problem is that particularly employers don't trust some of the examination qualifications a lot of young people are coming out of school and college with. And we're not doing anybody a service by having an exam system producing qualifications which are not taken up by employers, not properly respected. So we need to be more rigorous, and that's why we're trying to overhaul the way that we study A-levels and GCSEs and the qualifications they need to in schools. So there will be some changes. And the problem is that we're not just competing with other schools down the road. We're not just competing with young people going through the system in other parts of the country. We are competing in a global market. And this year, China and India, for example, will each produce 1.1 million graduates in engineering alone, working for companies producing stuff that we buy, for which we don't therefore have jobs available in this country. And that is the reality we have to face up to, and we need to make sure we've got a rigorous examination system which competes for the best in other parts of the world as well. The boy in the purple top. They're all wearing purple tops. It's a UKYP colour. That one, okay.
Thank you. On behalf of the Northwest, we're running a job opportunities campaign, and it basically calls on the government to provide training support for people leaving school. What are your views on the training, apprenticeships and that sort of thing for young people once they've left high school? And would you be interested in signing our petition?
I never do petitions, but I'm very happy to have a look at it and see what you say. But you raise a very but you raise a really important point, because I think the biggest challenge government's got at the moment is reducing what's called needs. I hate that term, needs. I've got the alternative term of REAPS, getting ready for education, employment and training, because I think needs is a bit pejorative. The government has produced a record number of apprenticeship places. We put a load of money through youth contract into work experience and into the youth contract for 16 and 17-year-olds in particular as well. Now, those apprenticeships are going to be much better quality apprenticeships. It's not just tokenism. They're going to be, in most cases, at least 12 months, with a far better chance of leading to a meaningful job at the end of it. And again, all the studies show that young people who have been through those sorts of apprenticeships are much more likely to find and stay in sustainable employment. But we've also got a hardcore of young people, 16 and 17-year-olds in particular, who are just not ready for work. Difficult to access people who need that extra support to really sort of engage with them as to what jobs are all about, in terms of how you present yourself, how you interview, how you do your CVs, and that you have to turn up at 9 o'clock every morning to go to work, or whatever it may be. So that's why we put a lot of money into that part of the youth contract. Well, we've brought in outside groups, a lot of charity organisations with expertise at working with difficult to access young people, in particular, people who might be through the youth justice system and others, to get them into a work-ready situation as well. So through the youth contract, there's a lot of emphasis on high-quality opportunities, which I think stand a much better chance of getting more of our young people into sustainable employment at a really difficult time, not just in this country, but across the whole of Europe. We've seen the disastrously high unemployment levels for young people in many other countries. We need to do much better, and we're putting a lot of money and a lot of focus on getting it right over here. Last one. A boy boy or girl, or what do you want? Somebody in purple? Somebody in orange? I don't know. Go on.
The boy at the back.
You've chosen all boys.
I'll go for a girl then.
She's going to burst. Stripy blue top, yeah. This one.
Hi.
Hello. This is probably going to be a mistake, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, I'm Natasha.
Hello,
Natasha. Glendenning. I'm from Dorset.
Congratulations.
I know. My question is more about the push for exams and exam results by the government and generally in society at the moment, and how that's affecting young people and their mental health. Do you think that the government is actually putting young people's best interests at heart? Do you really think they do by pushing for excellent exam results so that they can do things, or do you think that actually they need to take a step back and put less pressure on exam results and getting well-rounded people instead?
Actually, good question. And there are two issues there, briefly. I think young people are under huge pressure, more than ever, to succeed at exams. And too often, I fear, the be-all and end-all is the exam, that piece of paper. Whereas actually school and education is not just about coming out with lots of bits of paper, important though that is, we need to make sure they're meaningful bits of paper, but it's also about the experience of growing up with other young people in an education environment. It's about socialising, and it's about becoming a citizen who's going to contribute and become a part of society as well. Now, some people won't be grade A-level students going on to university, and that's why we've got to have a set of different choices. That's why we're bringing in the special technical colleges from age 14 onwards for those people to have more vocational training that may suit them as well. But what I'm really against is a culture in the past that has assumed because people come from deprived backgrounds that they aren't going to succeed. I just think that is wrong, and I think that is letting down far too many young people. And the statistics show, I've got it in my own constituency as well. I represent a constituency in Sussex, which is not an affluent area at all. We have some of the 20% most deprived wards within my constituency. And I've got 5 secondary schools which perform very differently. And quite often, the excuse for the poor performing ones is, oh, look at their catchment area. But that catchment area is actually exactly the same as the catchment area 2 miles up the road, where that school is achieving hugely well. And that's because the head of that school and the teaching staff don't accept mediocrity. They believe that anybody driven, inspired, supported, promoted can achieve. And in the past, too many people in this country, too many people coming from less well-off backgrounds on free school meals, it's been assumed we're never really going to make it to decent A-levels or university, therefore we'll teach you at a lower level. That is scandalous, and we have let down far too many people in the past by taking that attitude, and we're not going to take that attitude. There's a second issue about mental health as well. Now, it's something I'm really concerned about. I used to be our party spokesman for mental health. And there's been an alarming rise in mental health problems in this country, particularly for younger people. 1 in 10 school-age people will have some form of mental illness during their school career. And that's why I think mental health has always been seen as a sort of bit of a second cousin to physical health within the National Health Service. That's why the government's policy was called No Health Without Mental Health. For the first time, it says that mental health is no different to physical health. If you have depression, if you have some form of mental illness, why should it be treated any differently to if you had some heart problem or diabetes or whatever? It's an illness, it happens to be a mental illness, get over it. And we've still got that stigma problem. as they're really good in Scandinavian countries, mental illness is treated just the same way. Until we get over that, then I think people with mental illness won't come forward and get the support that they need, and the earlier you get that support, then the more likely you are to be able to get through it and lead perfectly fulfilled lives. A really important thing happened in Parliament recently, where we had a debate about mental health, and several of my colleagues got up, one of them got up and said, "Yep, I'm a fruitcake." And he described his mental illness that he had for many, many years and how it manifests itself. Several other MPs got up and said, "Yes, actually, I went through a bout of severe depression and had a really difficult period in my life." Now, that's very brave for any person to get up and do, particularly brave for a member of Parliament who, stands to be lampooned and lambasted in the press and by constituents. And I just think that sent out a really important message that if MPs can get up and admit to it, then can we just treat this as something normal, and nobody should be afraid of coming forward and getting the help that we desperately need people with mental illness to get. And for the first time, I hope, we are treating mental illness as just any old illness, and let's get over it.